All right, Rod and I are here live. What is it? Maybe 20 minutes after the 49ers and Bears had a Sunday night shootout, which leaves the 49ers to play the Seattle Seahawks Saturday night. How did we get screwed out of an extra day by having such a fantastic football game? What the heck? What
Yeah,
the heck's going on here?
that was awesome. Here you go. A week, one day shorter rest week. You're welcome. That's crazy.
Exactly. Exactly. The Niners the Niners did their part. Chicago also did their part. We'll talk about them because we saw them last year, and what a different team this team is versus last
Completely
year's team.
different team.
But yeah, so the Niners go, hey, we're gonna give you guys a game here. We're gonna have Brock Purdy doing the Dougie a bunch of times. We're gonna our defense is gonna be so bad that Caleb is just gonna be firing lasers all over the field, and it's gonna be one of the most exciting Sunday night football games in history. And the NFL's like, "Yep, thank you very much. Now you have to play in 6 days." That was not fair, but that is the NFL, man. They are all about the ratings and all about the big games, and they're creating this insane Week 18 in which two games are win or die. I think what is it? Carolina and Tampa and Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I think they're both win or die games, right?
Yeah, yeah. And then you've got Pittsburgh too on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
So
So
it is
that mean this
incredible.
is what this exactly what the league wants. I just think being a Niner fan, I would have liked to see us on Sunday night, but you know, I guess maybe not two Sunday nights in a row doesn't work. But if you want to look on the bright side, we get a marquee matchup Saturday night. We'll be the only game in town. So that's something, I guess. It still sucks though with, our injury situation that we get one less day for Trent and George.
Yes. That and the Trent thing, I didn't even really think about that when I saw the Saturday. I was like, that's one less day for George. But you're right. The Trent strained his hamstring. Was it like on the first series that they had?
Hmm.
And he
Yep.
was out, and he didn't play for the rest of the game. Austin Pleasance was in the game, and we thought maybe that if they lost this game, that people were gonna be on the train of blaming him. But thankfully, they won. I mean, they gave him help, but he held up for the most part. In the
Yeah,
end, there also Brock's feet helped him out a lot too.
absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so I guess here's where I want to start. So okay, so the Bears and the Niners just trading touchdowns back and forth, back and forth. It literally was who's going to end up with the ball last. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. So Juwan Jennings scores with just over 2 minutes left. He makes some great cuts. The Bears are just tired as all hell. He gets in the end zone, and I looked at the clock and I thought, you know what? They scored too early. Did you think that they scored too
Yep.
early and that the Bears were going to? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought 215 was way too much. But it's one of those things where I got my brother, he's a Bears fan, so we were watching the game together. And it's one of those things where you don't want to it's easy to sit on the couch and say wait to score.
Yes.
So you score when you can. But I did feel like we left them too much time. And
And you know,
and it turns out it looked like we left them just enough, just too little time.
and so here's the thing about the whole scenario, because the Bears. I just watched Varsity Blues the other day, and the winning touchdown to get into the playoffs in Varsity Blues is a hook and ladder. But the 500-pound offensive lineman Billy Bob is the one who catches the lateral, and he trucks into the end zone to win the game. They didn't have Billy Bob on that play, but I think they ran that play. Like I think Ben Johnson was like,
Watch.
"We're scoring. Like this is the
Yeah.
genius play here, and we're scoring." And when they didn't score, they kind of rushed. Like it was. I would like to see how the team reacted, but it was almost like once Caleb threw it, he was probably thinking touchdown. And the fact that they didn't score, they get down to down the ball with 4 seconds left, and then it leaves them for one play. And Caleb scrambles to his left, and you know, the funny thing about those plays, like, you think about it, and you think that the defense is actually the team that is in the worse off play, but if you think about how offenses work, because they're so close to the goal line, you only have a small window to actually run your offense. And when they showed the wide view of the play, I know Collinsworth thought that maybe there was a guy crossing in the end zone that he could have thrown to, but I feel like I think it was actually D. Winters who was there. I feel like he was sniffing that one out, and he probably gets a hand on it. But there was a wide receiver in the far corner on the opposite side of the field where the Niners were just like, you know what, we're only protecting this weak side because of where Caleb rolled out to. But that dude had the arm strength to get that ball over there. He just didn't see him.
Just
And
didn't see it. Yeah.
and so Bryce Huff goes for the sack, and he swipes at his feet, and he dives. And when he didn't get him, I thought, okay, we got a man on the ground. We are now playing 10 against 11. This is not good. And Caleb just could not pull the trigger. And if he did pull the trigger earlier, I'm not sure that there was anybody open except for that one person way on the other side of the field.
Which is just an impossible throw.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically throwing that thing up for grabs while you're falling down. And then he throws it into the ground, and the Niners come away with the victory. Based on the way they played defense, I was actually surprised at how well they played some of those downs. They brought pass rush. Chase Lucas got shaken out of his boots on one play and gave up a big play, but they were very decisive in their tackling. They were responsible in their coverage. I just assumed when Caleb had the ball, I'm like, okay, he's going to throw to the backs a couple times, and then he's just going to unleash something down the field, and it's going to be money. I guess the worst play was poor Luke Gifford in pass coverage, trying to cover the tight end. Like, that was the worst one. But still, you know, he made that thing could have went for that to the house based on how it left Caleb's hand. So the way they played defense in that last series, I thought was really strong. It was maybe the best defense that they played all game long, but I fully did not expect them to stop the Bears in any way, and they did.
Well, that's the thing. I think we've seen time and time again that the deficiencies with the defense have been well chronicled. So I won't do that here again. But we have seen time and time again that Bob Saleh, if you can take it down to a play by play scenario, he can dial up plays and get these guys in position to make plays. Like he said last week, you know, yards, you know, we've long since lost that battle. We're going to give up a ton of yards. That's just what it's going to be. But we just try to turn those touchdowns into field goals and get these guys off the field, you know, on third down. And they were effective in doing that. And when it was time for them to make a play, they made several plays in that last drive where we hadn't got any kind of pressure at all. They went zero blitz where they lined up, looked like we're going to do zero blitz. One time they came, one time they dropped out. But yeah, he was just making beautiful calls. And, you know, we pride ourselves as, you know, kind of looking at things in an elevated way. If I am one of these jobs, he's the guy that I want. If I'm Tennessee, I want him. He's a difference maker. Yeah. He is a real difference maker as a coach. And as much as a 49er fan, I would love him to stay. But as a person, and somebody who sees myself as ambitious, I don't feel like I want to keep somebody who obviously has ambitions to do that. here just for my feel good. I wish I he deserves one of those jobs, and I hope he gets it. Now, what ends up being, well, there's a lot to talk about this game, so I don't want to spend too much belabor this, but there are several jobs I believe that are worthy of him, and then there are a bunch of them that I believe won't be. And to me, it would be easier to stay. Um, who wants the Cleveland job or
So you're saying that if Mark Davis comes over and he's like, yeah, Pete didn't work out, you think,
nah, I'm good.
yeah, Saleh should run. He should just be like,
I'm good.
you should just book it from that meeting.
Right. You don't have, you can definitely, I would definitely stay the San Francisco 49ers coordinator for at least one more year. Now, it's interesting when you hear like Rappaport talk about what a deal to stay would look like. The first thing is, you'd be talking about a bunch of guaranteed money, which it might surprise some people. Coordinators usually never have guaranteed contracts, even if they are like like Salah, who at this point everyone says is at the top of the defensive coordinator pay scale.
Mhm.
He's still year to year. So you're talking about some sort of um guarantees for 1 or 2 years, and then every year no penalty for taking a head coaching job. Again, it would be, I don't think the Giants job I think is a good job, but I think he's probably still radioactive in New York. I don't see how they could, well, I guess I think he's a good coach, but I don't see how you could hire him in that market after how the Jets thing went. But I just think Tennessee is a great job. Atlanta would be interesting, not nearly as good as Tennessee. And then everything else, I think you could punt on it because I think he is going to be a hot candidate. I don't think he's somebody who necessarily has to worry about taking something or his shelf life expiring. But on at the same token, the other side of me says he's locked in at the top of the market at defensive coordinator, kind of like Josh McDaniel. He's failed twice as a head coach, and we see that he's a hell of a. Maybe he's just a coordinator.
Yeah.
I don't think that is Salah's fate. But yeah, I think he and Kyle both have done spectacular jobs this year, and as much as I want to see him continue on with us, if he is able to get him a good team in a good situation, I would be happy for him and root for him the same way. And again, I know I'm different from 49 fans. You root for other teams. Yes, I root for D'Amico Ryans and I root for Jim Harbaugh. Not when they're playing against the 49ers, but
Yeah.
like yesterday was tough for me because I like both those teams. So having them, but I like both those coaches and I like the way they play. So, those are my, AFC teams. I really dig those teams.
And also, as we've mentioned, Saleh needs that head coaching job, whatever the right one is, because
He
that
got
man
10,
has like
10
8 kids,
kids.
man.
He got all them kids, man. And like I said, I'm pumping Tennessee. Nashville is a family friendly place. He
Yeah.
could, that's he is deserving this cycle or next. I think that we all are smart enough to see that jet situation was a dumpster fire, and then especially if you understand the context that he was a dead man walking after he suggested, rightfully so, that we might bench Rodgers, which was not the most ridiculous thing I had ever heard at that particular point in time. It was not a very smart stance to take.
Yeah.
If you're reading the room and what they had done to get him there and the way at every turn they were kowtowing to his wishes, that was, it is principled as the stance and right as the stance might have been. It was not a very savvy political move.
Yeah.
And, he was gone 2 weeks later. So yeah, it's
All right. So
but I think he deserves another chance. He's a great coach.
so Shelvin, even before we got started, he said there's a chance for that number 1 seed still, which is bonkers. And that is maybe the
Absolutely.
most surprising thing about this run, which is that when the Niners got Brock back and, everything was kind of pushing to this direction of like, they need to make this run. I didn't even really see them leapfrogging the Rams. I didn't see them leapfrogging Seattle, and they haven't yet. They haven't,
Mm-mm.
and they're right there with those teams. But just the idea that the possibility is there for them to win out and win the division, and then would they be the number 1 seed in the entire NFC if that happened?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yep.
is it is
They'd get a
incredible.
bye. They would get a bye week, which is crazy. And again, this is somebody you're talking to somebody who has spent this in I probably have not enjoyed this run as much as I could have because I have been steadfastly talking about the yeah buts. Like, we've been talking all weekend about all of the, what they've done the past 3 weeks. I found it a hard time to like get jazzed when you did it against the Browns, the Titans, and a depleted Colts. But look, they played who they all they can play is the schedule they were given. I think that context matters, but the fact that they keep winning also matters. I think they kind of balance each other out. And just to like to Shelvin's point, the fact that they are here with all that they've gone through this season is bonkers is the right word. It's crazy. I week to week to week, I I've been waiting for this, this carriage to turn into a pumpkin.
Yeah.
And we are, we are 6 days away, 6 days and 1 hour away from them potentially having a bye and playing as many playoff games as they could win at home, which is I would have thought that after week 5, when Fred went out and we lost to Tampa, I would I wonder what the odds were on them being the number 1 seed in the NFC on that day. It was completely improbable. And it has been it is it's I'm here and I witnessed it. I've witnessed the last 4 weeks and it still feels improbable, but you have to give these dudes the benefit of doubt at this point that they're not the best team. They're never going to be the most talented team. They just aren't. But the statistics are going to look awful. They're going to give up a bunch of points. They're going to give up a bunch of yards. But if they can keep it close, I have to trust them at this point that in the same way Caleb had because I've watched them every week too because my brother's a fan. The way that Caleb got the benefit of the doubt that I just knew that they were going to score because he's done it like 5 times this season
Yeah.
in the last moments. It might not be the last moments for the Niners, but they've won these games over and over and over and over again. So when I do the statistical breakdown and the advanced stats on Seattle next week, it's going to tell me that they don't have a chance. My lived experience tells me that there's something going on. There's an alchemy happening between Kyle and the offense and Salah in the defense that you're not going to be able to quantify on a spreadsheet. There is a belief that they have there. You start talking about that, you know, woohoo stuff that woo stuff that I don't really feel comfortable with when you start talking about belief and galvanizing and all of that. But the sum tonight, the sum was greater than its component parts. And that's what we're dealing with. So they are 60 minutes away, which is bonkers is a great word. Bonkers is a
Have you looked at the point spread?
no.
What do you think the point spread is without looking?
Niners by 3?
I was thinking 2.5 or 3. The Niners are favored by 4.5 points at home. That
Wow.
number probably comes down because I think, like you said, people are gonna start doing their research and actually see how good Seattle is. But there is also we don't really believe in Sam Darnold community here.
Oh, yeah. It's
That
very strong.
yeah. So all right. Um, I wanted to start just kind of what you were saying here with Shanahan and the offense. I don't want to overstate how Brock Purdy is playing right now. But in my vision, this might be the best I've ever seen him with the weapons he is working with. And I want to say, and maybe this is just, just because I just watched this game right now and he's, running option plays in the end zone. But I feel like this might be the best that he's ever played and ever run this offense right now, the way that he's playing football.
Oh, absolutely. And you can't and I spent last week knocking down the fact that, the Colts didn't have any corners, which makes a difference. If you watch that Colts game today and they didn't have Mooney still, but they had Sauce, and it completely changes their coverage schemes when they can just leave that guy over there and then the other 3 can do whatever they're doing on one side of the field. So that matters. But that being said, he still went out there and lit them up. You know, they are NFL players who got direct deposits last week too. So
Yeah.
while they might not necessarily be the team that they were all season, it's legit. The Bears, again, are a legitimate team, and he is on fire. And like you say, this is by far, I would say, I'd venture to say easily, even including last year, that this is by far the least talented team that he has um, worked with. And he looks at his best. And like Collinsworth said that he said in their interviews, Kyle is on fire calling these games, and um he's giving him great plays to make, and he's making them. And he is whoever it doesn't even matter who's out there. He's making plays with Robinson, he's making plays with Bourne, guys who are journeymen. Juwan is third in Juwan, but he's not a number one receiver. Ricky looks good. So I don't, and I'm not saying all of this to diminish the talents of the guys around him, but they aren't Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle. I mean,
Right.
they're just not. So that, and it's no disrespect. When I was, Jake Tonges, great guy, Cal guy, Bay Area guy. So I'm rooting for him. He is not an All-Pro and Hall of Famer. So you're going to miss George Kittle. But I don't feel like I'm shitting on Jake Tonges to say I would rather have George Kittle. If I was given a choice, I'd rather have George Kittle. I'd rather have the Hall of Famer, rather
Yeah.
have the Hall Pro. But he had a great game. And so the point is, I think Brock has taken his game to another level. And there is a calmness about him. There's a swagger about him that he's always had, but it is tempered, I think. I think he's a vet now.
Yeah.
He's just, it's dumb to say it that way, but he's not a rookie anymore. He's not a young player. He is far removed from Mr. Irrelevant at this point. I think we're at the point where we can put that narrative to bed. I mean, he is a very good NFL quarterback, and I agree 100%. He is playing the best that we have seen. He has taken his game to another level, and this is somebody who has led a team to a Super Bowl, and he's playing. I don't think it's controversial to say he's playing better this year than he played in 23. And I don't really even think it's close. He is playing really special.
I was having a conversation with a Bears buddy. He also does content. He's also on some podcasts. I will not name his name because this is just in text and we're talking about our teams and stuff, but he's an Iowa fan, and because Brock went to Iowa State, he was talking a little bit of mess about Brock, just saying, I don't like Iowa State guys, and he's saying, Brock is the best system quarterback going, and I thought about that for a second because a lot of the credit is going to go to Shanahan for creating the system, and that is some of it. But Shanahan is also very hard on his QBs and in their
Oh yeah.
decision making. And to me, Brock is a processing quarterback. Like that is what
Yes.
sets him up to be as good as he is. That's what that is what changes his level and how good he can be because of his ability to process downfield. And the and then the flip side of watching Caleb, who that dude has every tool in the book, and Ben Johnson, as long as Ben Johnson and Caleb are a tandem, I think Caleb's going to be really special as well. But you could sort of see the difference in the way that both of those QBs kind of process, because Brock has had those. I don't know how many snaps he's had in the NFL, but he's had those extra snaps in those playoff games. And this is Caleb's second season. And already in Caleb's second season, you're like, I can see it. Like, as long as this dude stays on point, he's going to be awesome. He's exactly where that, his apex is like the Josh Allen and Drake May level, just based on his level of talent. Does he get there? Very few get there, but he's got that opportunity to do so. So what Brock is doing is impressive because he is able to play at the level of those guys who are just way more talented than he is. So he's able to make plays. He's able to run that offense. Even last week when we were talking about how good he played against the Colts, they asked Shanahan, what'd you think about Brock? He's like, we talked about a couple of throws that he missed, but other than that, he played awesome.
Mhm.
So he's always gonna,
And that's the thing. He's got to hold accountable. But the thing that I think is special about Brock, now I hesitate when people talk about elite because I just don't. And it's not a slight. It's not a slight to say somebody's not elite. I don't think so. I think his traits are limited. So he has a lower ceiling. Then like just a comparison we can make just tonight. I think he has a lower ceiling than Caleb. Because Caleb is just he's fast and his arm is crazy. But Brock outdueled him today because he processes at a very, very high level. And what I think separates him for somebody like Jimmy, who did a really good job in this offense, or what heretofore has been the gold standard in this offense, Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, is that while he is able to process, he is also able to play out of structure in a way that those two guys don't really have any interest in doing. Which is at the time he was coaching them, was why Kyle liked them so much, is they did not color outside of the lines.
Mm-hmm.
He gave them the play, and they would execute the play. Brock is going to get out of the pocket, and he is going to challenge the defense, and he is going to make throws that are going to make Kyle come over to him and whisper in his ear when he
Like the
comes.
first one of the game today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so that's going to happen, but I think that's what lifts the ceiling. I think
Mm-hmm.
we got to a point with Jimmy. I've softened on Jimmy in the years that have gone by. I think that was just, he got the most out of what he could give us, but he didn't have that extra to give that Brock does. He wasn't going to operate outside of the pocket. He was not going to challenge the defense 15 yards downfield. He just wasn't going to do it. And Brock is not scared. That's one thing I have always noticed about that dude from jump, is that for whatever it is, and then I had an Iowa State fan tell me that yeah, Brock's got a little YOLO to him. And you can see it. He is not. He is a, he's not fooling me on these commercials with that all shucks, Richie Cunningham shit. That dude is a
The
killer.
the
Brock
the
Purdy.
the CMC commercial was making me laugh a little bit more with him and Saquon keeps
Hmm.
calling him like a quick kissing up to the ref. So I thought that was pretty funny. But
Yeah.
okay, so I, I don't really go out on limbs about this team, about any of my sports teams really. I think the 73 win Warriors scared me in going out on limbs because they were the best team I think I've ever seen, and then they lose in the NBA Finals. This is not really even really a prediction, but I I think Brock Purdy's playing at a level where he could win a Super Bowl with this football team. Now, he would have to play kind of like he's played these last 2 weeks throughout the tournament, because what we also saw was a defense that is just not talented enough to play with some of these other teams. So this
Mm.
is kind of what we were talking about last week, which is if the 49ers are gonna go far in the playoffs, they're gonna have to do it while winning shootouts. And
Yeah.
that was kind of the preview was tonight. They stood toe to toe with Chicago, and they each other, they matched touchdowns until the 49ers blinked and had to punt, and then Chicago kicked the field goal, which was kind of like a blink too,
Yeah.
and then the Niners scored the last touchdown. So, the last 2 drives of the game were the Niners holding to a field goal and then the 4 and out to end the game. So, they stepped it up in those moments, but, there are some teams where I mean, think about Stafford and the Rams. Like, that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was watching this defense. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we cannot punt against some of these teams if we expect to win. However, if for whatever reason the defense is able to turn around a little bit, I do think Brock is playing at a level in which he could actually win the Super Bowl. That's how good my eyes are seeing him.
Yeah. I 100% agree. My only thought is, like you say, is with this defense. And we've seen that show. We saw it with the Rams, what that looked like, with them just barbecuing our secondary. And it's a different deal with these. It starts next week, honestly, because while same Darnold is same Darnold, um, they have a commitment to running the ball, which I am gonna make it my business to figure out what the hell Salah is doing formation wise that is discouraging these teams to run the ball, because I was saying it all throughout the Bear game. What I know about this team is if you just keep pounding the ball, we are not going to be able to hold up down in and down out. But there is something that they are showing them that makes them decide to pass it. And, kudos to him for doing it. But anytime anybody commits to running the ball, it is a track meet, because we are just not good at defending the run. The advanced stats say it, the tape says it, but there is something that he is doing. There's some kind of wand or spell that he's casting, some voodoo that he's using, that is keeping these teams from doing it. And God bless them, because it makes it a lot easier for him to scheme it up against the pass than it is to try to um, mount up to stop the run. That it's going to be interesting to see what happened to Upton Stout, because he's another guy who his stats aren't great,
Yeah.
but he's always around the ball and he's always seems to make the timely play. And it was interesting that that while he got worked a couple of times, Chase Lucas, who was a preseason darling because of the plays he was making, he made a couple of plays tonight. And yeah, so that it's going to be interesting. Again, here we go. It's just like that just seems, and I guess maybe that's every team. But
Yep.
why are we always, it seems like it's always injury talk with us. And my hope was that it would kind of ease up, and it would, you talk about like a regression to the mean type situation. We lost so much early that we would, get the benefit of the doubt and maybe get some injury luck down the stretch. But that does not seem to be the case because, like you say, he held up pretty well against the Bears, but they are just a little better than us rushing the passer. I do not
Yeah.
want any part of Anthony Pleasance with that Seattle front.
Yeah.
That is just a recipe. There's not enough help. They need a 12th player out there to help him block those dudes. It's so I'm hoping that Trent can go, even if it's, we found ourselves in that position, against the Rams in the NFC Championship game where a hobbled Trent, you look back in hindsight and saying, well, maybe Jalen Moore would have gave us a better chance because he was just so far gone at that point. He was just, he might have been a liability. And that, the way he did not look good when he was, crutching around there on the sideline. But hopefully we got 6 days, only 6 days, and hopefully he can get in the hyperbaric chamber. Fred can let him use his hyperbaric chamber, and he can get back to health. I don't know if Trent's big ass will fit in that hyperbaric there. Maybe he can put his leg in there and get some kind of benefit from it.
CMC had his best rushing game of the season, I think. 6.1 yards per carry. He looked fast and fresh, but we also know he's kind of had this issue with his back, and late in the game, you saw him on the sidelines, like in planks and stuff, like trying to loosen it up. And again, there's another one for 6 days. This guy's got to get better by Saturday night to play another football game. And how many touches does he have today? Like 30 or something? Like,
Yeah,
and they used him so much. And he's peaking at the right time, but you also do worry about the wear and tear. Brian Robinson has played very well as his backup, but part of that is he doesn't have to play very much. So when he's in there, he's completely fresh. And if he has to play a little bit more, he's not going to have that like explosiveness coming off of the bench just because he'll be on the field more. So I don't that's one that worries me as much as Kittle worries me, as much as Big Trent worries me. You're talking about the guy who Kyle trusts with the football more than anybody else. And that guy I think he went over 400 touches for the season. Is that true? It's really close to that. And we know that special 400 number. So that's one I'm worried about for Saturday is CMC.
Yeah, it's we've been having this byplay all season about Christian and Brian Robinson, but it would be different if I just it's noticeable. The drop off is noticeable. One, because he just flat out does not give you very much in the pass game. He's not, they don't really, it's going to be a play action to him or they're going to hand him the ball. He's not a threat as a receiver at all. And I believe that if you're going to if there's ever going to be a legitimate 1A to Christian, that player has to play both ways so that it's not like an obvious tell. There have been several running back tandems where that was just the case, where when this guy was in, when the Thunder back was in he was getting the ball. They're going to hand him the ball, and if the lightning back is in there, they're going to pass him the ball. Those aren't effective. If you're going to have somebody who is going to, that's what I've said all along about them trading JP. If they were really serious, and again, he wasn't as good a receiver as Christian is, but he was functional. If you were really serious about curtailing Christian's usage, you just keep him and allow. You don't bring in Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is not the type of player who is going to be a who's going to take usage away from Christian McCaffrey. I don't know who that player is because number one, he doesn't want to come out. So it's gonna be interesting moving forward because as he gets older, it's interesting. We saw two on primetime games. You saw Derrick Henry yesterday. He's at
Yeah.
32 and still looks amazing. So I think it's overblown how we, I think the numbers that we have some become accustomed to, like that number at running back 30 has always been the number, that the decline has been precipitous at 30. I just don't know if in every case is different, but I think especially when you're talking about top tier elite, top of the food chain players like a Derrick Henry or a Christian McCaffrey, I don't know that you're going to be able, that they're going to fit into that little box. But like you say, the 400 carry thing that's a real thing.
Mhm.
That's not something that you can it might not show up this year, but Saquon Barkley, if you want empirical data, he has definitely not had as good a year as he had the year before, and a
Yep.
lot of people will attribute it to all the carries that he had the season previous.
Shout out to CMC too, because you remember game 1, all of a sudden there's this word that he may have a similar issue with his Achilles, with the bilateral tendonitis. Like, remember there was like a scare like the Saturday before the game or something where they were like, "Oh, he's showing up on the injury report again." And he hasn't missed. Like, he's been there every single game, and he's just been it's not his best season, by the way. It is a very rugged season. It has been a very fight through everything possible season. It has been a tough as hell season for him, and that's what he's showing more to me than anything else, is just this toughness that he has that he probably has never gotten really that much credit for because he's been injured before. But he's just so tough this year. He's probably the reason, if you were to put it on one player, uh, to keep the Niners kind of just in the game, it was him, because he was doing so, like, Matt. I mean, I just go back to some of these Mac games. Like, Mac sees in his peripheral, like, the possibility of a pass rusher sneaking around the corner, and it's dumping off to CMC. Like, he's not even taking a chance. It's Christian's there, I'm throwing it. And that was a lot of the early offense this season. So the fact that he's had two different quarterbacks, that the usage is so high, and in week 17 he's having a game like this was just tremendous player. It's just been awesome to watch him over these last few years.
Absolutely.
All right, so as we get ready to shut this thing down, I actually have another podcast to do here in a few minutes.
Oh wow.
Saturday, Seahawks coming to town. We beat them all the way back in game 1, and it was kind of one of those games where would not have been surprised if they lost that game. And yet they eked it out. Both teams, I feel, are a lot different than they were in week 1. Detrimentally, the Niners defense is not what it was in week 1. Offensively, they are probably a little bit better than they were. I know Brock was better because
Mhm.
Brock was not fantastic in that game. So I'm very interested in what kind of looks they're going to give Sam, because they know Sam very well. He's been he's been throwing passes to their defense. So do you think the Niners are going to give Seattle the A1 defensive look? I mean, it is you win this game and you sit on the throne. You lose this game. I don't I haven't even looked to see what the wild card situation is. If they're 5 or 6, or can they still finish 7? I haven't looked that far. But the difference between a win and a loss in this game is bigger than anything that I can imagine when it comes to playoffs. Just this one game. So, how do you think they're going to play this?
Well, first, I watched that week 1 game, and neither one of these teams look anything like they do now, which makes sense. We're talking about 16 weeks later. Um, but so I don't think we're not going to be able to. That tape really doesn't do any of us, either
Yeah.
one of those teams, any good, because they're way better than they were then, and we are different. And I would say definitely offensively much better than we were then. They clearly have their identity, and your job is to stop us from getting the ball to Christian. And just when you start to, then when you start to disfigure or structurally break your defense to do so, Brock is comfortable running the ball. Brock is comfortable with throwing it to other targets. When you decide that you're going to, okay, we're just going to bracket Christian, we're going to put 3 guys on him. And you're going to have to figure out somewhere else to go with the ball. And he's like, cool, okay, we'll just throw it to Tonjes, or we'll just throw it to Robinson. Or, so that is the level that you were talking about with Brock. But I think that's what it's going to have to be. Now, the challenge with that is their defense is hellacious. They are a really, really good defense. So I don't see how we score 30 points against them. And we just might have to, because I don't know how we're going to stop JSN or that offense. So the recipe, I think you said it earlier, is what is gonna it's gonna have to be run and shoot. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to win shootouts
Yep.
throughout. And it's going to get with these teams. I mean, I'm just restating the point you made earlier, is that um as we move along, the opponents are only get harder and harder, and they aren't going to have these glaring weaknesses. They're going to be better teams, and the question is going to be, how do our coaches figure out ways to keep us in these games so that we can kind of steal them at the end, like we did today. We did it several times this season, on defense and on offense. But my concern is that you with these better teams, you end up getting a game. That was what my concern was with this one. When we threw that pick quick, it's like, oh shit, here we go. We're gonna go down 14 or 21 points. And then it's just a different dynamic when you're this type of team and you're trying to play from behind. We needed to stay close, or we need to get up and be able to let Brock just play free, and just, we're running and gunning. We're like the 89 running rebels. We're trying to go out there and we're trying to put up
I thought you were going
120.
to say Houston Oilers,
There
Warren
you go. We're
Moon.
trying to, yeah, there you go. That's probably a better analogy. We're trying to light up the scoreboard, baby. That's where we find ourselves at the end of 2025, going into 2026. And you know what? I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah.
We have all of our. That has been, that's something that really, that has really been the hallmark all the way back to the dynasty, is great defense has always been like our cornerstone. Joe is the GOAT, and we all love and talk about Joe. But those of us who were there know that if the defenses were subpar, we didn't. I mean, there were seasons where we would win 10 games and it would be one or two playoff wins. We didn't even sniff a championship, but all of those great teams, the hallmark of those are some fascinating barroom conversation is which defense was better.
Mhm.
Um, the 88, 89. I have a soft spot for the 81 team. Um, you know, yeah, 94, and then the teams that didn't win, like the Harbaugh's teams, their defense was hellacious. We got to see the best of Alden Smith and Cowboy at
Yep.
the same time. We got to see Patrick Willis and Bowman,
Mhm.
and we are, we are bereft of our big talent, but like at the last series of this game, Salah is out here making it do what it do, and I mean it's beautiful to watch. I'm not going to claim to be able to break it down what him and Kyle are doing on a play-to-play basis, but I know enough to know that there is some real coaching going on with them because the talent is just we've seen more talented teams here, and but they are this is going to go down as one of I don't know if it's going to be one of the best seasons. That's hyperbolic, but it is going to be one of the most memorable seasons, based on all of the when you put it all in context. Being 12-4 going into the last game of the season with a shot at the number one seed is. I'm just going to keep using Shelvin's bonkers. It's crazy. It is
That is a great word.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm gonna try to enjoy it a little
Yeah,
more, and
absolutely.
stop waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I know
I spent the last.
everybody's asking me what I think their chances are, and I keep going back to conversations we had in the middle of the season where we're like, they're gonna compete, but they just don't have the talent with the injuries. And
Right.
even my wife tonight said, "Do you think they have a chance?" And I was like, "Not really, but, they're playing well enough." The one thing that I'm kinda waiting for, and this is where we kinda look towards Saturday is because I think it happened when we saw them play the Rams, which is we're able to hang around, and beat some of these average teams. And then the team with a lot more talent than us just kind of put their foot down. I was like, nope, sorry guys. Like it's just not happening today. That's what I worry about with Seattle. That's what I worry about in the playoffs. But the way that their offense is playing, I don't think they're going to go backwards like they did in that Rams game because the offense is cooking enough right now to where they're going to be competitive no matter what. And that's going to be fun to see. And we'll be back on Saturday night talking the Seahawks game, and uh, we'll have so many more we'll have a bigger understanding of what that playoff bracket looks like Saturday night for the 49ers at least. We'll know
Yeah.
if they win, we'll know that they're the one. If they lose, then we'll know based on some of these other games what's going to happen and where they could fall possibly. So we did not have enough time after this game to even kind of look at that stuff, but we'll have that stuff next
Mm-mm.
week. Anybody who's paying attention will be looking at that stuff too. All right, so yeah, we'll be back next Saturday. So for Rod, I'm Double G. Thanks to Shelvin, my buddy Brian Ruano, Ant MNDZ, who only came in to say that we're going to lose in the wild card. NM Lobo, who wanted to shout out Purdy, thought we were even being slightly a little negative on Purdy. I was like, no, it's just love. We're just love on Brock right now. All right. Thank you to all you folks. I'm Double G. Peace out.